mean, not looking for them in a neighborhood, I'm more concerned about whether or not they're going to.
Well, I'm not sure, it could be on Long Island. It could be.
That's okay, I have family there.
Yeah.
I'll be there this weekend.
Well, if I can get it for you before you go.
If you can just find out from, and give it to Colleen,
Sure.
and give them, it's tomorrow, Friday. Call Crowley next week, Colleen, our borough administrator. And
Colleen,
I'll include
call me on that.
Sure.
I think you have my number.
I do.
Okay, thanks.
While we're looking at this, I'm sure it's probably too late to even consider this, but when I go up to Avon and I look at how they've taken their boardwalk and they've brought it gradually up to the building itself, I kind of like that. Is it possible not to take the whole boardwalk, but instead of capturing those ramps, I know you need 60 feet anyway, in that, turnaround?
We actually thought about that before we started designing this.
Yeah.
And Paul said it's just impossible to get the boardwalk, that slope to get up to where you have to go without having rails and things like that.
Yeah.
Too tall.
The
We
other
actually thought about that.
The other thing I find very odd about the front view, and I don't know if it's a necessity, but does this have to be stairs, or for symmetry, could it be ramp and not stair? Because it's just odd. That is the thing, the only thing that bothers me about the design is that. It seems like it should be ramp up and ramp down, not steps and ramp, because the balance goes off big time.
Well, can I disagree with you?
Sure, please.
Okay.
I mean,
The reason I disagree with you.
my wife does all the time.
Before we made that a porch, there was no railing there. Then you really felt it. But once it became a porch, that railing.
You got more balance.
Right, exactly. And I just thought, it would be pretty much of a waste to put a, whatever long ramp where we could put
And
steps.
create yet another one.
That's just.
Plus, a lot of
You're
people
looking
work
in
the
front of
cost.
this, and then it would be a ramp all the way.
plus, if you're having a function there and you're bringing in a couple cases of water and stuff like that, you pull up the curb.
You're right.
And if you're healthy, you
You're
can
right
just
about that.
shoot up
You're right,
the steps.
You're right. The ramp would be a long walk.
Mhm.
No, that's.
Because
no.
the kids could take their bicycles.
No, someone makes a good
down
point, you gotta acknowledge.
Right.
I didn't even think of the loading and unloading aspect of that, that's a good point. A lot of stuff is gonna be going in.
With the
and out.
rail, that's what I see the rail, I don't even see that. You know, what I mean,
Right,
my
that's what I
focus
thought.
goes on the rail. Because this is porch on this side too?
No.
No,
One side.
so it's just the one side porch.
Yes.
Can you open those windows? Or
Sure.
just lift them up? So you could open them independently, or just the opening?
Which one are we talking about? These front
That
windows?
wall of windows?
Oh, in the back here?
Yeah.
No, just the
So the
sections.
only option is to lift the entire thing up?
That's correct.
That's gonna be the ocean side.
Correct.
Is it gonna be windy with that amount of opening?
Possibly.
Yeah, so-
You don't have to open every single one of these things.
So these are gonna be
Well,
like, these are gonna be equivalent to garage door style. I know you don't want
Yes.
to call it that, but they're gonna roll up like that
Right.
into a ceiling, they're gonna rack back up.
They'll make approximately, we haven't decided how wide they're gonna be, maybe 15 feet or so.
The other option would be a series of like French doors or something that you would.
Similar to what we put up on the top floor.
But when they're open, it's all open.
But that was the whole object. That was a request to have them all
Right,
open.
and there's no doors in your way now, because everything's up
So if
above
there's
your
a
head.
concert going on or something happening, you're
Just go into the
Love it.
beach, that's good.
But you can only can open just
One.
one.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep, or you can open one here and one over here.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
Gives different options for us.
Yes, yep, very good.
Well, that kind of brings us to the floor finishes.
Floor finishes.
Okay, because of the fact that we can open this up and we're concerned with sand, we're concerned with something very durable, we have a couple different options. And one of the options is to use it's a epoxy terrazzo floor system, okay? Similar to masonry, cementitious material, but it's epoxy-based material.
Is this for just the this building, or?
No, I would say that this, it would be just for this building on the first floor. Just a couple different samples. Couple different samples, yeah. Oh, yeah, there's a lot, there's a lot. There's a
That'll
lot of
wear
things.
real well, right?
That'll wear, that'll
A
wear
wooden
very
floor
well.
would be
No.
disastrous after a very short
No,
time.
that doesn't make sense.
Well, they was wood the other day.
It's always been wood floor, I've never, well, yeah, it's always been wood.
And,
This isn't
there's,
slippery one way.
no, there's a slip coefficient on that, so we specify how slippery it should be. This is a bad picture, but it shows you the different type of options. There could be logos put into this, there could be different borders, different, you know, as you can see here, this is all the same epoxy terrazzo floor system, but you put designs in different colors. This is a little bit much, but I just want to show you what we've done there.
Is that something that's poured on site? or-
Yes, it's done on site, yes.
So this is poured, it's one,
Yes.
That's really.
so it's not
It's
tile.
got a- no, it's not tile.
It's like a
It's
marble effect, it feels like you're working on.
There's expansion joints that run throughout the floor, little brass joints that go in there. It's your school, but 2014, if you know what I mean. If you go back to an old school, that's a terrazzo floor.
Right.
Very durable.
I'm concerned about, the bottom floor is gonna be for arts and crafts, kids run around, dancing. What about if someone falls? Is this harder than wood falling on a wood floor? Kids are constantly falling in there in arts and crafts classes. I mean, I teach gym on a linoleum floor, a tile floor, and anytime they go down, it's like, okay, go see the nurse. So I'm concerned about the hardness when someone trips, someone's dancing.
The senior
Was wood considered?
Wood's so much
Um,
softer.
Wood was, I mean, I'm happy to interject.
Sure.
Wood was considered, it was something that, as the quote-unquote owners, DPW and I had a kind of back and forth conversation about, and something that was an ongoing challenge was the idea of sand and kind of the wear and tear on the finish.
Yes, right.
High maintenance, and so really wanting to, what we asked Greg was, can you find us some options that are a bit more durable in terms of life, in terms of quality, is always gonna look a certain way. But I get Councilman's concern, obviously, about the hardness of the surface.
Yeah.
The laminates, though, I mean, laminates have gone a long way, right? The laminate line, the wood.
A wood laminate?
You can't redo that.
You're gonna rip it up when it goes bad.
Yeah, it's
Can't
tough.
refinish it.
We lose a spot.
Understand that the floor structure is a structural concrete slab. The piles will go in, and they'll get tile caps, and then the slab, the structural slab will span across that. So we're gonna have a concrete slab,
Concrete slab.
concrete slab,
And
and then this on top.
Nobody topped it.
So wood won't give that much over a concrete slab.
Well, if we were gonna go with the wood floor, we have a couple different options. We can get a pre-finished floor that gets glued down to the concrete. We can put sleepers down, insulation, vapor barrier, and then put a wood floor on top of that.
And then
The gym floor here is over.
Similar to a gym
cement-
floor, absolutely.
Cement floor, over a
Correct.
cement slab.
That's correct.
What is it, about 2.5 inches?
You guys might have other ideas.
Right.
You know? We're really open to talking about it.
I mean, you said before this was used in old schoolhouse buildings or older schools.
Yeah, but not in
or
the
something.
gym, right?
Well,
No, but. he
Brian
said-
brings up a good point. It's a hard surface. It's a hard surface.
For the walls.
And you know, again, I'll just play it. There'll be functions in there like birthday parties.
Senior dancing.
And they will spill cake icing on it. And that's gonna make that real slippery.
And no matter what slip coefficient we use, someone's gonna slip on the ice.
Right.
But that could happen on the wood
Any
floor as well.
surface, yeah.
How about a wood dance floor someplace in the middle?
Well, actually, the other one had a wood dance floor, and then the perimeter of it was wood, but it was more,
But if you just said a designated area, was
Well,
it
that would be
huge?
something we would think about on the second
Part of
floor.
that design.
Well, that's,
yeah.
yeah.
And this would be carpeted, potentially
But they'll be there still.
Oh, okay,
You're gonna be
Right?
dividing this into 4 rooms.
Right, yeah.
What about
It's not just gonna be
carpeting?
one fixture.
we could go with carpet tiles.
Yeah, right.
What
Or-
about the
or-
sand and
But then you
that
have
and the
issues with the
spills?
sand, the spills with the carpet tile, they're very durable. They could pop up, you can put a new one down, very, very easy to,
Right, but what
We'd
about
like-
high traffic
Vacuuming, yeah,
cleaning?
you'd be vacuuming them, and that would be vacuuming versus.
How about a roll-out piece? There's something called dance floor, which is a material about that thick that they use on in theaters and that kind of thing. If you had a roll of that, or you could put out if you were gonna dance or you're gonna do arts and crafts or something like that, you could put that over the top of it and roll it up and put it under wood.
Well, I can see where this is a no-win situation. You know, I mean, the wood was always there. I mean, I don't know how much more difficult it will be to maintain the wood than this.
I think the issue with the wood is, the wood is not, I mean, the wood may not be my top choice, but it's definitely not my bottom choice. The wood, you could refinish, so.
Which we do, like the gym floor every so often.
My preference to the wood, it would be warmer, it would look nicer, it would give a better feel to it. I also think that you could say, if it was a wood floor, I'd get a wood floor, and you could really
Absolutely.
get your 90% off of that.
I think they take that
The
whole-
delta on something like this, you might wind up only effectively seeing, half of that or something.
Right, and this comes with all the other additions, so maybe covering it with wood, what a wood dance floor, roll out something for arts and crafts, or if we stuck with the wood, I mean, it might seem like a maintenance every year, but at least it's, I think it gives us more.
I can't see an antique looking building with a terrazzo floor, it's just trash.
You're gonna have so much of it, I think the cost driver is gonna be huge on this one. This is not like a small deal. If this is even 30 or 40% more than it would before, it's gonna be a multiplier large. So, and I know you might have to sign up for the maintenance, and maybe it's only gonna last 10 years or 20 years, and you have to replace it.
Well, the wood floor that was there was there when, when did they build it? 79, 81? Yeah, so I mean, you know.
I don't think you're gonna have to pull it out.
No.
Yeah, where
you
it's
may have to
there,
refinish
that
it.
was,
Yeah.
that was what it
Yes,
is.
that's, we had so many functions in there with the wood floor. And I agree with Ed, you know, people coming in, you know, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Wood floor was always there. You know, I can just see people coming in here automatically going, what's this for? You know? I personally like the wood floor. What's the cost?
Oh, wood floor is less expensive than this. No question.
Wood floor!
Put the extra money in maintenance.
Yeah,
I like the wood floor too.
I just figured I'd throw this out to you.
okay.
This credit.
Now, what I did say
Say
before,
that for the bathroom.
the dances are downstairs. We had a dance floor that was, let's say, 20 by 20. And then the rest of the building was more like a tongue and groove type of wood. That was a little rougher surface, so it was less slippery, where the dance floor was a smoother, flat dance floor type material.
You go back to the second floor?
No, first floor.
Oh, no, the old-
And it always, you know, sure, it got sand, it got water, it always pretty much held up.
What do you mean by the rougher surface? I didn't,
It was more like
We-
a
Not that you could get a
house, you know,
splinter.
it's,
Ingrain, ingrain or something like that?
It was a much rougher grain.
With
Hardwood, though.
This was like the dance floor.
Okay.
And then the outside around that was a rougher. If you went too hard, you could possibly get a splinter.
Is that because of the age and the?
No, it was put in that way.
But you gotta remember, the downstairs is gonna cut into three different slots now that you didn't have. I don't know if that matters.
Right, well,
If your
yeah.
design goes on when it's full one open room, that makes sense, but when you cut it into three spots,
Well, you don't want to put 3 dance floors in there, just,
well, no, but then when it becomes meeting rooms, whatever you do with the floor is gonna get chopped up a little. It's
That's
gonna,
what you're
it's
saying.
gonna, you know, I mean, not that it's a big deal, but the design that looks good when it's one room won't, when you go down and just put the dividers in.
Now, the wood we're talking about is just in this area here, correct?
Yeah, you can do that,
And
yeah.
then obviously the bathroom's gonna be some other material, and the lobby will be some other material.
Right. Yeah, the main room, the
You think
meeting
maybe
room.
wood goes through the lobbies?
That's maybe,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. But you're not going in there.
No.
Okay.
No, but that's-
And the concession?
Well, the concession at this point is gonna be concrete.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
right, because there's gonna be dark shells, basically.
I hate to get too finite about this, but Colleen, and if you don't know the answer, maybe it's something we have to find out about, but the question that was just being asked about, well, let's do this as wood, and then the rest of it, maybe you could go with something less expensive. Are they gonna credit for the full, 7,200 square feet? If it had 7,200 square feet of wood floor previously, do you get credit for that, and then if you're only using 4,000 of it, or are they only gonna pay you for, you follow my question? I don't know. Because the question is, it should all be wood floor.
Sure.
Like why then, it doesn't make sense to not make it all wood floor if the credit is only against replacing what you lost, right?
Maybe I can answer that. The old building burned down.
Right,
It was strictly a pavilion.
right.
It was rebuilt as strictly a pavilion, all wood floor.
Right.
And then, as years went by, we used it more, we put in the kitchen, our DPW, put in the bathrooms over the wood floor. Now, the building was destroyed by the hurricane. We are replacing what was there, and we're replacing it to what the code would be in today's age. So we want to be penalized by not putting all wood back. In other words, you wouldn't put wood in a bathroom any longer. You wouldn't put wood in the kitchen.
Okay.
They wouldn't expect you to do that.
Okay.
So they would not penalize you for that. Putting the wood out where we have our activities, yeah,
Well,
that makes
I
sense.
guess I could rephrase the question. If they're gonna give 90% to replace the floor, wood being the most expensive option, anything else being
It's not the
less.
most expensive.
Well, but the most expensive where you could actually put it, you can't put in granite floors because you only get credit to replace the wood floors that were there. Anything else that we do will just cause that to be less known. I guess.
You know what, the way I really think of it is in terms of what we went through with the Boardwalk project worksheet. If you remember when we first went out to bid the Boardwalk, we had both the e-pay, wooding option, and then the track stacking. The conversation with FEMA was always that they would pay, we lost tracks, they would pay for tracks.
Right.
And so it would be the delta cost differential between the tracks and the e-pay.
Right.
So it would be treated similarly.
Okay, all right, and then, so if we went with less, it's just, like, these other things are gonna be cost savings against wood. The other surfaces aren't gonna be as expensive as wood that you'd use in the bathroom or in the kitchen. Chances are that flooring is gonna be less expensive than what a hardwood floor would be.
Yeah,
Not
right,
necessarily.
that's what you're saying.
Chances are.
You don't accrue the credit, though.
I'm sorry?
You don't accrue the credit.
What credit?
The credit you might have is.
For not
the
using
lesser-
another material?
Yeah, you don't accrue that.
No, they're gonna credit you
They pay for what you
500,000 for floor, and then you use 500,000 in the floor budget.
And but you have to use the designated amount for whatever item it is that they're budgeting you for.
They pay for what we built. Not
Per
for what we
item,
don't build.
per item.
They don't pay for what we don't build. Yes.
I don't understand. I'm sorry.
Why would, they wouldn't give us
You
the
get
money for wood floor that we
$500,000
didn't put
for a
in.
floor, you have to use $500,000 for the floor. If you don't use that, you don't get to use, you have to not take that money.
The question is it a gross budget or is it a line item budget that you foresee?
Probably like a line
No,
item.
we go as built, so it's actually what we built.
Sounds like everyone wants wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Anybody not want wood?
Woodwork?
Yeah, so
Greg.
I will say,
What's better for yoga, huh?
I know, but that's exactly how I remember it,
That kind of-
yeah. Just wood, you can't see the difference between the dance floor and the perimeter, but it's a wood floor. Yeah,
That's the best picture I could find of the inside.
yeah,
I tried.
So where do I look at the west side like the cupola?
you don't need it.
I can attest that wood lasted the entire length of the pavilion.
If it was,
You
these
know.
were pointed
No, you
at
wouldn't want
one
to
end.
bet.
And there's no function to
No.
that?
No, just in the open space. And there's a wall. Yeah.
Actually, these are rounded, that's what.
It was always coming off.
There's zero function to this? No, it's just a facade.
Just a-
Yeah.
Is there any function to that, or is that what we're asking, or is that
No.
just a facade?
It's a facade. We're leaning to do that.
Yeah, you could just.
Yeah, we agree.
So,
Is that the center control?
that's the Senate cooler.
Yeah.
She's a goner.
I know that was hard for you.
No, that wasn't really hard. No,
You're on the bubble about that.
That was, exactly.
No, it looks better without,
It's
the
so
way
much.
these are shaped.
Yeah.
That's gonna be great for you. Just great.
I'm not locked into that. Senate
First party.
You make decisions on your new phone.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go back.
Okay.
Okay.
Those red X's were pretty definitive.
Yeah,
I
right.
thought, Craig.
Now, probably for the lifeguard buildings and stuff like that, you can use those tiles that you just used.
Find it more durable.
Oh, yes, yes, that's a good point.
You know, for the
Well, you know,
first aid and the, you know,
What I was thinking about there was, maybe, we use it in firehouses a lot in the engine room. It's an epoxy, broadcast epoxy floor system, very, very durable. I mean, you got trucks on them all the time.
You paid it on, right, Greg?
It's a little more elaborate, meaning there's a system they come out with, they paint on the epoxy, then they broadcast out the grains, and then they'll float something else on top of it and bring the coat up and everything. And we've had a lot of success with that.
It's inexpensive.
Yeah, relatively speaking, it's a heck of a lot less expensive than the epoxy terrazzo floor. So we were thinking about something like that, or potentially taking the slab and maybe staining the slab, and that's a lot less expensive as well. Now, the concession areas are gonna be the concrete slab and no finish at all.
will that be slippery?
Well, we don't know who's gonna come in, and if they sometimes, you ever go into an Einstein bagel years ago? That floor
We
is
still,
the
we
same.
actually still have one.
Yeah.
They go in wall.
That floor then is the stained concrete.
Concrete, yeah.
Yeah.
I had that on my
And
diet.
again, there's a slip coefficient you have to go
Because
by.
the 10th Avenue concession years ago had the tile floor, and when you walk in and out, it was very slippery for wet feet.
12 by 12.
Yeah. I mean, that was a hazard. You want to brainstorm this?
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
It's a little wet.
Greg, thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great presentation.
Okay, well, we want, for concession discussion of ideas, want to brainstorm this. In other words, that one building has 4 sections, or it can be kept as 3 sections or 2 sections, depending on the vendor that comes in. What we don't want to do is duplicate too much of the vendors across the street, I don't think. You know, you got Jimmy's Pizza, you got the Beach Nut place that sells beach.
You got a fitness place?
Yeah, I don't think that, I don't know if Joel's gonna be there much longer.
Belmar Fitness.
These hours are really cutting back.
What about,
So we have to try and think of, do you have any suggestions what you would like there?
if you could take one of the concessions that faced the ocean, so it wouldn't bother anybody on the boardwalk or anything like that, I'd love to see a small arcade. Something that kids could do something with, you know, on a cloudy day or a rainy day or something like that. Some pinball machines,
There used to be a
some of
small
that kind of
arcade,
stuff.
Belmar Fitness was a small arcade.
Yeah.
Yes, Myers.
I would rather
Hey,
see it
Meyer.
go across the street. I'd rather see it go into
Actually,
Belmar Fitness. than-
10th Avenue Pavilion used to be an arcade.
Yeah.
And obviously 14th Avenue was an arcade. So at one point, we have 3 arcades on Ocean Avenue.
But I
How
think
come we
one,
don't anymore? What was the reason?
Good question.
Police
we got
problems.
McMansions there.
Yeah, good.
Good question.
I think it was a
No,
security.
it was a problem. It was a problem.
Because you know why? It wasn't-
It was a problem for the neighbors, it was a problem for the police, it was a problem.
Wasn't enough to have families go. It ended up being teenager.
Because there was a death, a beating death at 14th Avenue Arcade, which pretty
Well,
much.
let's not have that.
No, that's not good to have.
But I don't think that eliminates the idea of an arcade.
I just want to maybe make a comment, all right? It's important that we recognize areas that we don't, I mean, we could pick colors and things like this, but there's areas that we're not really subject matter experts in, right? Shouldn't somebody be consulting, and I'm not saying for pay, right? Don't pay them, but shouldn't somebody come and give some advice on the best way to handle and manage these concessions? Rather than us try to figure out, well, we think an arcade is good, or we think another pizzeria. Like, shouldn't somebody that's in the real estate leasing business come in and advise us on how much a square foot we could get and what the proper mix of retail might be? Pro bono, I'm not talking about laying out any money at all, but someone that would have a vision for how all the space should be utilized, and then what the square footage should be, and what kind of rates we should plan to get.
And I think that's definitely part of the process, what you're outlining. I think, there's a lot of steps between now and public bid of these spaces.
But isn't what was there coming back, like those people are gonna have it first, so?
So there's a whole mix of situations. Those leases end staggering times. Some of them are up at the end of the season, some of them are up before we open the buildings.
So once they're out.
And once they're out, they have to rebid.
See, and my larger concern is like those minimum bids, if they're not put out there the right way or known to a wide enough audience, Matt's gonna say, anyone else want to bid $1 more? And it's like, everything's gonna go at the lowest. Like, there's gotta be some
True,
strategy to
and
manage this
and that's
space.
why the consulting with real estate is so important, as you illustrate, because we've also gone the other way. Predates me, but I know they have set the minimum bid at a certain number for concessionaires, and nobody comes.
Right,
In which case they were left with,
right.
we'll have to go back and try again later. So that's where we will be doing that consulting. I think this was really more of an opportunity for us to really just talk conceptually. If we have an opportunity to bring certain textures of businesses down there, what might be fun to have?
So it's like.
When you mean an arcade, you don't mean pinball machines, probably like the
Like Asbury has, that's pinball
Seven.
machines.
more
Right now,
modern.
7.
Or some, yeah, more modern. I mean, I guess it would depend on who,
That made it 6
who
to
bid
7,
and
it went
who got
up
it,
to
what they-
8.
Right, because before we were at 6.
All right, 7.
but I think you could set it up,
I think Belmar
so it would
Fitness
be
would be
reasonable.
a great spot for.
Well, yeah,
Off the
but
boardwalk.
then you've got noise on Ocean Avenue, where if you have a concession in one of these buildings that faces the beach, then you're kind of insulated from, the noises going out
I
towards
know.
the ocean.
As a parent, that would drive me.
All right,
So,
I'll definitely, let's,
They're gonna wanna
when we
go there.
talk to
you
the
gotta
council,
go to the beach, you gotta
so
be
like a
going back.
coffee house
Like a coffee
should be
shop?
one of them, right? Similar, like, not necessarily,
Stays open.
not necessarily exactly a steak gold, but.
we want something for everybody there. We don't
Something
want to
like-
have
yeah.
2 pizza places. We don't
Something
want
like
to-
a coffee shop,
How's Muscle Maker Grill working out? Because that's very unique and different. Do you do that too?
I don't know.
Free enterprise is the best solution.
When Muscle Maker, he has more limited hours than some of the other concessionaires, but when he's open, he's doing very well.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, people like the salads and the wraps and stuff like that. It's a non-fried option.
Yeah, but when I walk by there, he's rarely open. I walk
Yeah.
in.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I noticed
in
that
the morning,
too. I noticed that too, he does it.
Ice cream, there's not really,
Well,
Yeah, good ice
like a
cream,
nice
yeah.
old, I mean, you come in with these kind of buildings, wouldn't it be nice to have like a Dave's ice cream place in
Mm.
Ocean Grove?
Yeah.
It's just old fashioned, kind of
well,
coffee house.
possibility, right?
Yeah, no, I'm writing down everything you said, so that's no bad idea right now.
Not like
Yeah.
how that
What's
closes
the
at
ice cream
6.
place you said in Ocean Grove?
It's an ice cream place called Dave's.
Oh.
It's been there since like,
Nagels.
Nagels
that's
is
what I'm
another
thinking
one
of.
that's really good.
Yeah, that's adorable.
I mean, that's cute too. And Dave's is like around the corner. Dave's is around the corner.
I'll find that what you don't like.
The candy store? Oh, saltwater taffy and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You couple that with
Yeah.
ice cream.
Kids would come in for that.
What was the suggestion?
Like a candy store,
That's what we were
saltwater,
just talking about.
saltwater taffy, those big lollipops,
Ribbon candy.
Yeah.
yeah.
So they had something similar to that like in Asbury.
It
old candy shop there.
Yeah.
And they split it up with candy and ice cream, they did really
There's
well.
a really cool one, that's what Greg and I were just talking about, in Long Branch, as you approach Pier Village on the corner. It's this great
Yeah.
candy shop and ice cream, and it's, feels fun.
Believe it or not, there's nowhere on the ocean front where you can buy
Okay.
seashells and things connected with what you would find
Like
on the
tchotchkes
beach.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Years ago, there used to be a place called the Neptune Treasure Chest, where you go in and buy everything.
Right,
Yeah,
it's something
novelty
like a
shit.
Belmar tourism shop.
And a breakfast place too is a
Breakfast
really
is
good
always
breakfast
the same.
place, like Avon has
Like
that nice
sit,
little.
a sit-down breakfast place, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be nice,
Yeah.
I still miss sitter-offs,
yeah.
go there all the time.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, that's
building
the
is
old- that's
such
the
a
old building, yeah.
disaster, I don't know where code enforcement is.
Anyway,
Used to be
that's
old
another
time.
topic, but something like,
Another
I mean, those are.
I can't believe it stood there after the storm.
I know.
And the brick building across the street from it got knocked off its foundation.
That would be, I think, breakfast place.
I think that's a great
I think a breakfast place in that other building,
Yeah,
breakfast,
a larger space in there.
yeah, that would be my way to go. But I like the candy idea,
I like-
ice cream.
Yeah, there is.
Can we ask questions yet, or?
We're just about there,
So,
Dave.
the only trying to decide the use, right, goes anti-highest bidder type strategy, because if you're trying to dictate what goes in there, and, I mean.
No, it's a redevelopment zone, so we can put certain standards.
No, I understand. Again, I know what I don't know, and commercial, pro bono, commercial real estate advice here would be very valuable.
Yeah, I
I like that idea.
Trying to come up with a mix. You could throw these ideas out there to say to the degree that you can, but someone might take a look at this and say, you've got like an unbelievable opportunity to put a real mix of higher end.
That would complement each other.
Businesses
Yeah.
that would just all work well together and somehow,
Okay.
I mean, if you look at, I'm not saying Pier Village is we necessarily, we're aspiring to do that, but if you look and see who gets attracted into, when you present space like that,
Right.
we might be selling ourselves short when you're thinking candy store, when you really might be wanting to put something a little higher end.
Dave, did you want to say something?
Well, just while we're on this topic, isn't it really gonna be the mark, like, you're not gonna say, we're only gonna bid to candy shops or breakfast or whatever. It's really gonna be, you're gonna just say we have these spaces, and whoever is interested in being there is gonna be making the bids, right? Like, are you
Well,
gonna
we wouldn't
determine
want-
what kind of businesses?
We wouldn't want to hurt the vendors that are across the street, like the Jimmy's Pizza.
Well, one thing is, someone's less likely to open up something directly in competition, if there's someone right across the
You
street
would-
doing the same thing.
There's so much pizza
So
on
the
Eighth
market,
Avenue.
the market,
Someone's gonna think you
works
put
for
another pizzeria.
preventing that.
Because they're
Like,
pizza.
you're not gonna get four guys opening up a pizzeria in the same place because they don't wanna be in such a competitive thing, so, usually the market,
Not necessarily.
But there is
If
more
somebody's got
places
some money
out there,
behind them,
right?
they might try to drive the other one out of
And
business.
drive the other guy out.
There's
So-
already four of them
And-
there.
What's
well,
that?
if you have better
Right,
pizza.
for
Yeah,
your-
right, yeah, that's right.
You also, if I may, you also mentioned ice cream shops, and you gotta keep in mind that there are 3 or 4 places on Main Street that, deserve not to have competition also, but they're part of the town. And we shouldn't ignore the downtown businesses and promote something on the beachfront that's gonna take away from those businesses.
True, I mean, the only thing is,
If you're on the
all our
beach-
restaurants are up here on Main Street, so a lot of the Main Street's getting their restaurant business, and then people
Well,
go out.
I wasn't talking restaurant, I said ice cream, you got 3 or 4 places that do desserts.
But if you're
When you said ice
there,
cream shop, you already got 3 ice cream shops, that's my point.
but if you're there during the day on the beach, you're not gonna get your family in a car and go get ice cream and come back. I mean, that's talking walking traffic there, and that's something that's not an option.
Well, a lot of people do go to get ice cream after the beach, though,
Yeah.
if they're at the beach.
But no one's gonna take a visit some strollers, that's for sure. I mean, people that love
How do you
that.
go?
I refuse to go to Strollo's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He turned me down for sponsoring a recreation basketball team.
Wow. See?
Asking for $100 went for soccer, went for basketball, he said it was too expensive, so.
I'm shocked.
I'm surprised too, because he's always so generous.
He's, and the one time I got him
Man,
to, I
David?
paid for the ices for the last day of arts and crafts and summer program. He was supposed to deliver them at 11 o'clock. He came at 10 minutes to 12. Almost all the kids were gone.
I went there with the Girl Scouts, and
Oh.
we had 20-something Girl Scouts, and he went.
I have no
on and
use for
said,
that guy.
I was gonna treat all the girls, and he said, no, I got it.
I have never once gone to
No, I was
strollers.
doing an art presentation for him.
Not that you're carrying that grudge.
I'll carry this grudge to my grave.
My
All
wife's
right,
convinced
maybe
that there's
you're
something in the stuff that makes the people come and stay in lines.
You must have read that
Must
article
be
about
pot
the
in there or
co-star
something
with
like
the
that.
eggs.
Oh, yeah.
The eggs?
Oh, my God.
Oh, you're that egg guy.
I'm the egg guy.
The egg whisperer.
Beatles song.
Well, how about we take Mark's idea, because I think it's really a
Yeah.
worthwhile
Yeah.
idea, and.
Get a professional in here to tell us what to do.
Yeah, is there somebody that we can
Well, and I think the other
approach
piece,
that's?
the other piece that comes into play there, as Mark suggests, is, the way Greg kind of blocked out the spaces is to, I'm speaking at 8th Avenue on the south side of the building, there's these 4 equal
Right.
spaces. Maybe it's better as two, combine 2 of them, have one larger and 2 small, maybe there's market for having one large one, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would know, that's a good
It
suggestion.
may have a better value to somebody in a different
Sure.
size.
I think they'll be able to tell you that 900 square feet is only gonna get you this type of tenant.
Exactly,
correct.
exactly,
That's correct.
yeah,
And then they'll know what ponds to go fishing.
yeah.
All right.
Or catch crabs in the lake. Anybody else? Jim?
I have general questions, not about this topic.
Okay.
Are we? in public
Yeah,
session?
yeah, throw it out.
Okay, Jim being
I
in
didn't
612.
recognize you with the haircut. I didn't.
Jim being 612 Susan Ave. Questions on, for Taylor Pavilion, did we get plans of just making it of 1 story? Did we have the architect put anything together for that?
No, we never designed one for.
We've always had 2 story. So my question is, with the golf course and the 2nd story, there was a thought pattern to why we needed a 2nd story. And it wasn't money, because we didn't talk about money yet. So if I'm gonna build a house and I say, hey, Mr. Bean, we can make another room for you, I would think, okay, what can I do with that room? What my value would be after I build it? Is it worth the money or not? Through those considerations, I would think, should I build it or not? It's already been decided, we need a 2nd floor on Taylor. We already need a golf course on top of the other building. My question is, what was the thought pattern of why we need that?
That wasn't our decision.
Whose decision was it? The
Well,
second floor?
we are an advisory committee to the mayor and council, and when the architect comes with their plans, we advise them that we like the windows, we don't like the windows, we like the siding, we don't like the siding, we want the flooring in. We weren't telling the architect to go out and draw.
Okay,
That's
Mr. Architect,
right.
well, hold on, Mr. Architect, who told you to do 2 floors?
The committee advised me to, we were talking about
That we,
which buildings could we do 2 floors on, and they said to investigate Taylor and investigate.
All right, so back to my real question, what was the
Right.
thought pattern of, hey, let's build a 2nd floor?
probably goes back to me because as recreation director of using that building for so many years, the need for more space, we could have utilized more space
So,
time and time again.
so you're justifying, and I'm not saying it's wrong, you're
No.
justifying the extra cost just to get more space? Meaning, we're getting so much from FEMA to build 1 floor, but we should invest more for a 2nd floor because we need more space. That's the
We would-
justification.
Yeah, we would be able to use it. In other words, years ago, when they rebuilt the building, it was strictly a summer building, no heat, nothing in it. And as we started using that down there more often, we saw that we needed to put the heat in. We needed insulated, we needed a kitchen, we needed bathrooms. And then as it got to be more and more popular, we needed more space. Now that the building's gone and we're rebuilding it, why don't we take advantage of that need for more space? Where do you use it? What building uses the most functions down there? It would be Taylor Pavilion.
Okay, what about the golf course on top of the other one?
What do you mean?
Well, somebody said, hey, we need to make this roof into a golf course, or we should have the roof
again, we're looking for like a family attraction. What could you possibly do, you know? We-
Well,
What's
yeah,
that?
I think it's important to note that this what has been a very organic evolution of a design. And so, you know, we took feedback from the committee, we took feedback from mayor and council members, we took feedback from stakeholder groups. Greg and I have met with numerous users of these buildings and just gathered input. And so a lot of it, it wasn't necessarily a design A or design B, design B. It didn't flow like that.
And half of the committee didn't even want the golf course. I know myself, I voted it down.
Jim, the first point, let me just address and, you know, hopefully appeal to keeping some open-mindedness, because, you know, obviously it seems like you're against having a second floor.
I don't know the cost.
Okay, all right, but
That really goes back to-
just hear me and just please try to keep an open mind about
Sure.
it, right? So, this town, and I've been coming here since 1976, owned since 91, has become a much more of a community. It's not just a summer. You used to come down here in wintertime, it was a ghost town. There was no one around. It's not like that anymore. These businesses, the town, it's becoming more and more a year-round community. It's becoming more a full-time community for residents compared to what it used to be, right? To not take an opportunity and leverage that extra space now for future generations, not just us, but for what this town's gonna be like 50 or 80 years from now, might be very short-sighted, even though it's gonna have an incremental cost, okay? We also have an advantage, but I know that we have to be good stewards of it as well, is that there's a revenue stream that's not associated with our tax bills that can help support and amortize some of that cost over the next, I don't know what's gonna be allowed, 15, 20, or 30 years. But I appeal to you as a council person to think about that and be a good steward for this town during your tenure, because you are making history here. And don't make it based on a short-term decision if it's gonna be, you know, I don't know, an extra $1 million or $2 million to put a second floor on. I mean, think of what decision you're making now, back to like what the decisions people were making back in the 1800s when they were building the structures that are no longer here. You're that guy now. You are that guy. And just try to keep that in mind. I understand it's not a blank check and you have to be responsible about it, but there's a real opportunity with the beach utility being a revenue stream and revenue source to do it, to make some really good decisions long-term for this town that the residents and the beachgoers are going to benefit by. So just try to do that, because I know I know it's a hard fight for you, and you push, and you have a right to, right? Because we just don't want everything rubber stamped by everybody. But sometimes there's a decision that you got to say that is the right thing to do. So I'm still waiting to hear the numbers. I mean, this isn't like wahoo, let's just go crazy and spend whatever it costs, right? But backing off to not do the second floor, I think would be very myopic right now. If be dealing in just here and now for the moment and not really think about 50 years from now, what this town, because look back and say, why didn't they do that when they had the chance? There's not going to be any more footprint up there. Once those dunes go up, we're not going to get any more space back up on that beachfront. I'm very upset if there's consideration to not putting 13th Avenue back too, but that's a separate discussion. But for us not to get back what was built would be a crime for this town, the people that are in charge of this town right now, not to put back what was there and improve it where they have the opportunity. So until you see the number, it's hard to argue with going with the second floor. I mean, I think it's going to be a big number though. You've got to brace yourself. I don't think it's going to be cheap, but.
I think the argument of more space is what I want to hear. I just want the
And
justification.
we learned we needed more space after we rebuilt the pavilion as a pavilion. That it was no longer just June, July, and August what we needed for it. It started going May to September, and then April to October. Now the last couple of years, it's been year-round.
This is
To be down here, this building, if you want to complain about a building, this building, there's really no office space. That's why when we sold the building down there on the highway, the Women's Club were completely out. There was nowhere for them to go. So we allowed them to start meeting down there. Then the AARP wanted to meet there. Then there was the Start Through Squares wanted to meet there. You know, it's the need for more space. and where were we gonna find it, was necessary. Good point. We have to look into the future. What's Belmar gonna need 25, 50 years from now? I think the second floor.
Now,
is good for
here's
you.
what I ask you to think about as a negotiating or drop back position, right? You could build it out. Now, you could build it out and not finish it out if you needed to, just to get it ready for future use as well, right? So to not make it ready to build out and lock yourself into a one-story structure, I think would be a mistake. The worst case scenario should be thinking about, we're gonna do complete finish on the first floor and just have it prepped for the second floor for some future round of funding or something, if you had to, but that would only be like what you really drop back to, just, like, some people do that on they don't finish their third floors until they have enough money, and then they come back a couple years later and then they finish it. But, you know, you hate to start there, right? You should start with what you want the finished product to look like, and then make a decision as to whether or not. But I think not having a second floor at all, and not even have that option. And then on the golf side, I'm not crazy about golf. I'm crazy about playing golf, but I'm not necessarily crazy about mini golf. But I have to agree that that space, unless you're putting a mini golf there, you would just be a regular roof, and there'd be no second floor structure. So if the mini golf gets removed, at least you'd still have some extra space up there that could even if it's just for viewing and for public to have that public access, that would be worthwhile space.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
good question.
I buy that
Excellent.
argument, particularly being prepared. One thing that concerns me about having the second story and having the availability for more functions is, what are you gonna do with parking? You're gonna have a big impact on the character of the neighborhood if you're trying to have two functions going on at the same time.
I don't think we should ever have two functions at the same time. But in the winter time, parking would not be a factor, because you have all that parking along the boardwalk.
Yeah, but you're not
Well,
gonna
you're not
have
gonna have
banquet
people walking
in the winter.
six or seven blocks in the wintertime on the boardwalk either.
Right now, in winter on the ocean.
Well, you know, you
Yeah,
do
the
have,
Residents would have it function up there. I just tried it out so many times when I wanted to rent that place, because there was no space.
For
You don't have to
200,
walk
an
before,
occupancy for
but can you have-
250 people,
Because the space is there, it doesn't mean you can only rent it.
but it's happening.
you know,
You wanna have a
the fishing club often has
Oh, yeah.
functions that equal 200 people, and hardly is the parking impacting at
You're
all.
talking 200 upstairs and 200 downstairs.
No.
We would never have 200, we wouldn't be going two functions at the same time.
But 200.
There's
I don't
part of the
know if it
argument,
was
if you're not
200
gonna go
on the
two functions at the same time, what do you need the second floor for?
It wasn't 200 on the floor.
You know,
It is, it
it's,
is in the
if you can't have them at the same time.
A lot of times what I found is, we would have an activity, you sell them the beach badges, you have the arts and crafts, then you have another group coming in for the afternoon. Another group could be setting up upstairs. I mean, you could never really be setting up, having a function going on upstairs and something going on downstairs.
I just don't think the parking's the driver for these decisions. I mean,
Partitions.
But where are they
the
gonna
parking's
park?
gonna happen.
I mean, I live
Depending on
there.
how many people, just like when you go to the supermarket or Walmart or Costco, if you go Christmas Eve, you've gotta park further out.
But you're
I
gonna
mean-
have, this is a banquet facility to accommodate 250 patrons. I mean, that's a big facility. When was the last time you personally attended a party where there were 250 people?
About 2 weeks ago.
I
mean,
can't even
seriously,
And how
remember.
far away did you have to park?
I go to a lot of places, and they're always around 150. Maybe the biggest one was 175. This is a large facility. And if that's,
I agree that would be an issue from Memorial Day to Labor Day, 100%, okay?
Okay.
There's no debate that parking will be an issue in that amount. The other 9 months of the year, I really think that you will absolutely have a nucleus that spreads out that is not gonna be, that's like 50 or 60 cars you're talking about. I mean, you're not gonna have 100 cars coming from out of town to park there.
you're gonna have deliveries of vendors for food and
Right.
alcohol.
That's correct.
You're going to have the service personnel
they have vehicles that work there. You're gonna have to
So how many cars do you
staff.
think for a 200 person?
It's not gonna be a business.
It is a business.
No, we're not gonna have a, no one, you know, we're not, that's not gonna,
But if you're having.
well, someone's gonna cater. You need someone maybe cater it. And
It's-
All right,
you have
so
a
pick
full
a number.
kitchen
What,
there,
what,
that's
what
not
number are you
gonna be
comfortable with?
catering.
100
That's not a full
spots
kitchen.
for a 200 person event?
there's,
It's
Not every
no
event's gonna be
it's just
200.
story.
That's well, not every event's gonna be two.
you're not gonna be able to cook, meals for people to sit down and, like the Barclay used to do.
But then
Or the
who's
Matisse.
gonna- Well, who's gonna attend this banquet facility?
I don't.
Like Judy would have rented it for a family reunion or
Or my kid's birthday party.
a birthday party.
Whatever. And I
This
was
is the
turned down.
community center we would really like to
I
have. I
think
mean,
so.
that we've always wanted in town. It's a
You
community
know, I
center.
had a
And
christening
that's-
party for my daughter, a huge place. And, we were only a small group, it was ridiculous. I was like embarrassed because it looked so empty and it looked like half the guests didn't attend. But you have the accommodations downstairs to open up for 200 people. Why do we need another place upstairs for 200 people? I just don't understand. I honestly don't
It's a
understand.
community center.
It's a community center.
It's what
You know,
people
it's-
have been
it's-
asking.
It's what we've always wanted and needed here. It's a
And
place
you
where
want
the
a
community
banquet
comes together.
facility.
There
You
could
want
be
a
meetings,
multi-purpose
there could be-
room.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
it's calling it a
yeah.
banquet.
It's a
facility.
multi-purpose
Yeah.
room. It could be used for,
Space for community.
you could do movies there, you could do children's functions, the Girl Scouts could meet there, the Boy Scouts could meet there, senior citizens could
But
meet
they
there.
meet downstairs.
School
Right.
dances.
Because we've already said they can't meet in both spaces.
We've already been through this, and
Yeah.
we've
For the first
gotten beyond
meeting.
this point many months ago, so
Well, the town
I'm not
does.
sure.
I think the
We
town
haven't
is,
had a
town
chance.
is really upset about
We
No.
haven't had.
No,
I haven't,
Yes, they are.
well, then you're the first person I've seen
it.
that's been upset
Oh,
about
I'm
it.
sorry.
So, and I get around town pretty much.
You come on Sixth
A
Avenue?
lot of people.
I live on Sixth Avenue.
Okay.
Okay, well, first of all, you know, the Barclay couldn't stay in business, and he was even supplying the food and the liquor, which is the really profitable stuff, not the actual renting the hall. And I'm just wondering, we don't even know how much this is gonna cost, and we haven't we figured out, like, how many, how long is it gonna take to actually pay this off? How many, has anyone, like, done a business plan about trying to, you know, realistically figure how much kind of revenue is it gonna generate? How long is it gonna take to pay off the additional cost of putting up the second floor? Like,
Yeah.
shouldn't that be, like, looked at first before we build it, you know, instead of just building it and then